Charleston breathes smoke and salt. The air is thick, heavy, like the breath of something ancient that refuses to die. The docks groan. Ships rot in the harbor, carrying sugar, cotton, and whispers of men who never saw land again. Above it all, the mansion stands high. He wakes to the sound of iron being dragged over earth, a ritual more consistent than prayer. The sound doesn't startle him anymore. It's become a kind of mourning hymn. He rises from the floor of the slave quarters, his body marked by splinters, his back a map of raised scars. Each scar has a date. Each mark remembers a word that should never have been spoken. He doesn't count them anymore, he only counts heartbeats. And between those heartbeats, silence. The quarters smell of earth and rot. The ceiling hangs low, patched with wood and desperation. Men cough softly in the corners. Women hum low songs, half lullabies, half warnings. Children sleep beside buckets of cold ash, their faces shadowed by dreams too old for their years. Outside, the air hums with the rhythm of labor, axes striking wood, water slapping against barrels. The overseer's whistle, thin, sharp, slicing through the dawn. Samuel steps outside. His bare feet meet the dirt, cool and damp. The sky is the color of copper now, bruised and reluctant. Smoke from the sugar mill coils upward, staining the horizon in shades of grief. He walks toward the ferry dock. His place, his cage, his stage. He was chosen for the river because he was strong and quiet. Quiet men make good tools. The master liked to say that. He said Samuel rode like a shadow, moved like one too, invisible when it pleased him. Each morning, Samuel ferries cargo and men across the narrow stretch of water, from plantation to port, from port to pane. His hands move through the oars without thought. Push, pull, push, pull. The rhythm has replaced his heartbeat. The water smells of salt, blood, and something old. The ghosts of the enslaved who drowned trying to do what Samuel only dreams of. He can almost hear them when the wind shifts. Voices beneath the current, whispering in the rhythm of the tide. They tell him to wait, to listen, to watch. So he does. So he does. He watches the master's children play by the shore, their laughter ringing like broken glass. He watches the overseer's boots leave patterns in the sand, marking the world like ownership. He watches the water, always the water. It glitters like a living thing, mocking him, inviting him, reminding him. Freedom moves like that. Beautiful, cruel, just out of reach. When the sun climbs high, sweat becomes a second skin. The air thickens with the scent of molasses and labor. Men move like shadows bent under heat. The whip cracks, sharp, casual, intimate. Every sound echoes too long. Every silence is louder. At midday, Samuel eats from a tin plate, bread hard as bark, water warm as spit. He chews slowly, eyes never leaving the river. It's the only thing that moves freely here, the overseer notices. Still staring at that river boy. The voice drips like oil. Samuel lowers his gaze. Yes, sir. The overseer grins. All teeth, no warmth. Then maybe it'll drown you someday, he laughs. The sound is cruel, but not untrue. Samuel nods, says nothing. Silence is safer than truth. He finishes eating and returns to the dock. The sun begins to fall, the shadows stretch long and the air cools just enough to breathe. He dips his hand into the water. It's cold, alive. It licks the wounds on his wrist. He imagines it washing him clean if only for a heartbeat. Night creeps in. The plantation exhales. Somewhere a whip curls around a scream. Somewhere else a song rises in defiance, low, steady, eternal. Samuel listens, he hears the rhythm of the night, the slow hum of survival, and beneath it the soft pull of the tide. The river speaks again. It doesn't promise freedom. It only offers a choice. By the time the moon rises over Charleston, Samuel knows its language by heart. It's the sound of motion, the sound of leaving, the sound of something breaking inside him, quietly, completely. Tomorrow will come, and with it, the same chains, the same sun, the same river. But tonight he lets the thought live, small and trembling in his chest. That maybe one dawn soon the river won't just whisper his name, it will carry it. Dawn is not gentle. It cuts through the fog like a blade, spilling light across the wet docks of Charleston. The air tastes of salt and rust, chains whisper against wood, and somewhere in that slow gray hum, a man waits. Samuel, his breath clouds the air, steady but shallow. His wrists ache. The iron has eaten his skin raw, small moons of blood glinting along the cuffs. He does not move. He listens to the waves, the gulls, the river that has called his name since birth. In the distance, the mansion stirs. A dog barks, short and sharp. Boots drag across gravel. The overseer's voice cracks the silence like a whip. Another morning in chains, another sunrise spent under someone else's sky. But not today. Today something shifts. A quiet rebellion stirs in his chest. Small, precise, patient. The kind of silence that hides thunder beneath it. The sky is bruised purple, and the world smells of iron and ash. The river glows faintly, a silver road leading somewhere beyond pain. He's watched it every day from the shore, watched freedom move but never touch it. It mocked him with its rhythm. It sang, "Run if you dare, he dares." Somewhere behind the slave quarters, the first rooster crows. The sound carries through the damp air, mixing with the faint hum of water against the hulls of ships. Samuel lifts his head. His eyes catch the first thread of light, dawn, fragile and trembling. And in that moment, the chains feel lighter. Not gone, not yet, but trembling under the weight of his will. The river waits, the world still sleeps, and Samuel breathes the word he has never spoken aloud. Tonight, the word hangs there, not a whisper, not a prayer, a promise. The fog swallows it whole. The river keeps it safe, because by the time the sun climbs high over Charleston, the docks will remember the sound of breaking iron. And the river will carry more than just water. It will carry a name, Samuel, the man who broke his chains at dawn and made the river his escape. Memory is not kind. It doesn't arrive as pictures. It arrives as sounds, as smells, as pain that never asked to be remembered. Samuel's earliest memory is not a face. It's the sound of metal. The first chain clinking shut around his mother's ankle. The low, choking gasp she made when it tightened. He was 5. The sound still echoes. Not in the air, but in his bones. He remembers the cabin they shared, a single candle always burning low, because his mother feared darkness more than she feared death. She called it keeping the light, a promise to see the next morning. Every night before she slept, she whispered to him, "Listen to the river, Sam. It remembers everything the world tries to forget." And then one night she was gone. The candle still burned, but her side of the bed was cold. They said she was sold south. He didn't believe. No one ever came back from south. For weeks he waited by the dock, certain she would return. The overseer found him there one morning, sitting in the mist, eyes empty, lips cracked from whispering her name. He dragged the boy back by his arm, struck him once and said, "Don't wait for ghosts, boy. They don't swim." But she had left something in him, the sound of the river. It never left. Years passed. The world became smaller, harder. Samuel grew tall, strong, silent. The silence was armor. Words were dangerous. They could be twisted, used, punished. He learned to keep them buried deep as the roots beneath the fields. He remembers the branding, a letter burned into flesh, the smell, meat and metal and fear. He remembers the way others looked away, not out of mercy but survival. Pain was a private thing here. To watch was to share it. To watch was to share it. To look away was to live. That night, he touched the scar until it stopped burning. He didn't cry. He didn't speak. He only listened. The river outside the quarters whispered through the dark, its rhythm steady like a mother's heartbeat. He whispered back, "I'm still here." The years after blurred together. Harvest after harvest, face after face lost to the auction blocks. He ferried people who would never see home again. Sometimes he rode white men in suits, sometimes chained men in silence. All of them crossed the same water, but none saw what he saw. The river's shimmer, like an open eye that refused to close. One winter night when the air froze on breath, a young girl tried to run. He remembers her name, Ruth, small, fierce, too brave for her own body. They caught her before sunrise, dragged her back bleeding, half dead. They made the others watch. They made him hold the lantern. He held it steady, though his hands shook. He watched, because she deserved someone to remember. When the whip fell, she didn't scream. She just looked at him, one long, defiant look. Then she smiled as if she already stood on the other side of the pain. That smile lived inside him like fire. It burned long after her body was gone. From that day, the river stopped being just water. It became Ruth's voice, his mother's voice, every ghost the world had swallowed. When it rained, he could almost hear them all, whispering in rhythm with the storm. Freedom was not a word he dared to say. It was a sound, a pulse, a rhythm under his ribs that grew louder each year. He buried it deep, but it never died. It moved in him like a second heart, slow, patient waiting. And in that waiting, something changed. He began to look at the overseer differently, at the keys hanging from his belt, at the locks on the chains, at the boats tied to the dock. The world that once felt endless began to shrink into patterns he could almost read. The river had been teaching him all along. Now each sound of metal was not a wound, it was a map. Each lash of the whip a mark on that map. Each scream a direction. And somewhere at the end of it all, water waited, moving, alive, untouchable. When Samuel closes his eyes now, he doesn't see his mother's face. He sees her light, that single trembling candle flame that refused to die, and he knows what she meant when she whispered that the river remembered, because he remembers too. And memory, when it refuses to die, becomes revenge. Midnight, the air splits, thunder roars like cannon fire across the swamp. The rain falls sideways, a sheet of silver knives slicing the dark. Samuel moves through it, a shadow sharpened by resolve. His body glistens, water and sweat mixing with dirt. The hatchet gleams faintly, a crescent moon in his hand. The dogs bark again, closer now. Their chains rattle, voices of alarm. Torches bloom near the porch, dim halos trembling in the storm. Men shout, boots stomp through mud, but they are too late. Samuel is already inside. Taboo. He slips through the side door of the overseer's house, the hinges groaning like old bones. The smell hits first. Whiskey, sweat, gun oil, arrogance. He moves past the table, past the chair where the man used to sit and grin while boys screamed outside. A whip hangs on the wall, still stained. Still waiting. Samuel pauses before it. His fingers brush the leather. It's soft, smoother than skin, crueler than teeth. He takes it down, coils it in his fist, and breathes. He hears footsteps above, slow, uneven, a cough, the creak of a floorboard, the overseer. Samuel climbs the stairs, each step a drumbeat. His heart thunders in sync with the storm. When he reaches the landing, lightning flashes through the window, painting the hall white for a heartbeat. He sees the door half open. Light flickers inside. He pushes it gently. It swings inward with a sigh. The overseer sits in bed, shirt undone, a half-empty bottle beside him. He looks up, bleary-eyed. For a second, confusion, then recognition, then fear. Samuel, the voice cracks. Weak, uncertain. Samuel doesn't answer. He steps forward, the whip dragging behind him, whispering across the wood. The man reaches for the pistol on the nightstand. Too slow. Samuel's arm arcs, the whip snaps. A single strike cuts across the man's hand. The pistol clatters to the floor. Another strike, across his face this time. A crimson bloom under the lightning's glare. The overseer screams, tries to stand. Samuel kicks the bedpost. The wood splinters, trapping the man's leg. He raises the hatchet, stops. For a moment there is silence, not hesitation, clarity. He looks at the man, trembling, wild-eyed. A god brought to his knees. "You remember Isaac?" Samuel asks, voice low, hoarse. The overseer stares. Rain drums against the window. "Do you?" Samuel growls. The man shakes his head, trembling. Samuel slams the hatchet into the wall beside his ear. Wood cracks, plaster falls. He leans close. "I do." The storm howls through the window. He grabs the man by the collar, dragging him from the bed, through the hall, down the stairs. The overseer pleads, words swallowed by thunder. Samuel says nothing. His silence is louder than any scream. They reach the main room. The fire still burns in the hearth. Samuel throws the man against the table. Bottles scatter, glass shatters. He picks up one, half filled with kerosene, smells it, pours it over the man's chest. The overseer's eyes go wide. "You'll hang for this," he spits, desperate. Samuel almost smiles. "I already hung," he says. Then he strikes the flint. Flame leaps like vengeance itself. Orange, hungry, holy. The man screams, his voice tearing through the thunder. Samuel watches, face carved from stone. The fire dances in his eyes, reflection of centuries burning clean. He turns away before the man stops screaming, not out of mercy, because he is done. The room begins to blaze. Curtains curl, wood pops. Smoke climbs the stairs like memory. Samuel steps outside into the rain, the fire hissing behind him, trying to live against the storm. He breathes deep. The air filled with smoke, salt, and something new, peace. But it's not over, not yet. He moves across the yard toward the mansion. The dogs are loose now, barking frantic. They circle him, teeth flashing in the dark. He doesn't run. He stands still. For a moment, man and beasts face each other. Both born from violence, both shaped by command. Then Samuel speaks, calm and low. "Go." He steps forward, unafraid. The dogs hesitate. Then, one by one, they back away. Freedom recognizes itself. He reaches the mansion steps. Torches burn along the porch. Voices echo from inside, confusion, panic. He kicks open the door. The hall fills with smoke and rain light. Masters, servants, guards, they freeze. Samuel stands drenched, hatchet in hand, eyes burning with something older than fear. They see him, the man they thought dead, the name they buried, now risen. He speaks once. No rage, no tremor, just truth. You taught me how to kneel. He raises the hatchet. Now watch me stand. The hall explodes into chaos. Men rush him, but Samuel moves like stormlight, silent and precise. The hatchet arcs, cuts through the air with the rhythm of drums long forbidden. Each swing a story, each strike a verse. He does not kill them all. He doesn't need to. The house is already burning from within. The overseer's fire crawling through the rafters, feeding on greed and lies. He walks through the smoke, through the screams, through the ruin. A spirit wearing flesh. Every footstep echoes like thunder. Every heartbeat shakes the floorboards. The chandelier crashes. Flames climb the curtains. The river wind bursts through shattered glass, carrying smoke into the dawn. Samuel steps outside again, soaked, bloody, trembling. Behind him, the mansion burns, its pillars glowing red like molten bone. Sparks rain upward, scattering into the clouds. The storm has slowed, but the fire does not. It refuses to die. He watches until the roof caves, until the screams fade, until only the crackle of fire remains. Then he turns toward the river. The water glimmers, black and alive. It waits for him again. He drops the hatchet. It lands softly in mud. He looks at his hands. Blistered, scarred, free. He whispers, barely audible, "It's done." The river sighs back, whispering through the reeds. Yes, he steps forward, back toward the water that birthed his second life. Each step steady, slow, sacred. When the fire behind him meets the rain, steam rises, a white shroud over the ruin. It looks almost like peace. Samuel walks into it, and somewhere between the storm and the silence, a legend is born. Morning comes slow, not in light but in color. A gray hush crawls across the fields, the kind that lives between night and dawn when shadows still own the earth. Samuel wakes before the others. He lies still, his back pressed to the dirt, eyes open. The weight of chains rests on his ankles, cold and slick with dew, but today they feel lighter. Not because they are weak, but because he no longer believes in their strength. He sits up, listens. The world is quiet, too quiet. Even the birds refuse to sing before the sun. And in that silence, Samuel feels it. That strange steady pulse inside his chest, a rhythm older than pain, older than fear. It's not the rhythm of his heart, it's the rhythm of memory, the sound of his ancestors whispering through his blood, drums in the dark, songs from the ship, feet pounding earth before the whips came. He breathes in, and it's as if the soil itself answers. He can smell it, the copper sting of blood long spilled, the sweat soaked into the ground, the ash of the burned, and beneath it all, something sacred, something alive. His hands press into that soil. It stains his palms, coats his fingers, fills the lines of his skin. And for the first time, he doesn't wipe it away. He lets it stay because now he understands. The earth is not his prison, it's his witness. The overseer's voice cracks the air somewhere beyond the cabins. A dog growls. Chains rattle. But inside Samuel, a stillness has taken root. Calm, heavy, dangerous. It's the silence before a storm realizes it's about to become one. He looks down at his hands again. They're not trembling anymore, they're steady, like tools built for purpose. Hands that once picked cotton will soon build escape. Hands that once bled for someone else's profit will soon row against the current of captivity. He feels it, the shift. It's quiet, almost sacred. Not a scream, not a cry, but a hum deep in his bones. The same hum his mother carried when she prayed, the same hum his father made before the lash fell. He starts to hum now, a low, trembling sound that grows steady with each breath. It rolls through his chest like thunder, low and certain, rising with purpose. He hums until it becomes a vow. Every note says, no more. He stands. The chains drag in the dirt behind him, but now they sound different. They sound temporary. Each clink is a countdown. Each echo, a warning. He walks toward the edge of the quarters. The sky is still black, but the horizon bleeds faint blue. The river calls again. That slow, endless sound, like breath. Like heartbeat, like promise. Samuel stops. He stares at that line of silver on the horizon, and something inside him, a line, becomes truth. He whispers to himself, soft as breath. They can break the body, but not the will. It's not defiance anymore. It's revelation, and revelations, when they come, change everything. He feels his pulse in his wrists. He imagines the blood flowing through him as a current, pulling him toward that river. He pictures the dawn not as a time, but as a doorway. He begins to plan. In the rhythm of his heart, in the space between thoughts, He counts the guards, the distance to the trees, the timing of the dogs, every detail, a stone in the foundation of his freedom. But beneath all the calculation, something more profound stirs. He no longer sees himself as a man escaping. He sees himself as a man returning to the water, to the pulse of the earth, to himself. The first hint of light slips through the trees. It brushes his face, soft, golden, fragile. And yet in that fragile light, Samuel looks unstoppable. He closes his eyes. The chains cool around his ankles. He breathes deep. One breath for every scar. One breath for every soul that couldn't. That couldn't. One breath for every night the river waited. When he opens his eyes again, they're no longer the eyes of a slave. They're the eyes of a man who's already begun his escape. Night falls heavy. The air turns thick. And somewhere between breath and tremor, Samuel begins to change. He is still bound, still scarred, still living in the shadow of the lash. But something inside him has begun to move. A small pulse, a whisper, a spark. It's not rage. Not yet. Not yet. It's quieter than that. A kind of knowing. That strange still moment when the hunted animal turns its head and finally looks back. He sits by the river's edge that night, the same river he once feared. It stretches black and endless before him, whispering of escape. The water is both mirror and memory. And in it, Samuel sees the reflection of a man he does not yet know. A man unchained. A man reborn. A man not running from fear but walking toward freedom. The whip marks across his back ache like burning stars, each one a story, each scar a vow. He touches them gently as if to remind himself, I survived this. Every blow they gave was a seed. And now, those seeds are growing. The plantation hums behind him. Chains clink, dogs bark. The overseer's boots grind in the dirt. But in Samuel's ears, the sounds begin to fade. The night takes them, swallows them whole. And all that remains is his heartbeat. Slow, steady, relentless. He remembers his mother's voice long buried in the dust of memory. Don't let them take the song out of you, boy. He didn't understand her then. Now he does. The song isn't just melody, it's will. It's the breath that refuses to be stolen. It's the hum that survives the scream. That night Samuel hums, softly under his breath. The song trembles like a ghost between his lips. He hums until the tears dry, until the tremor in his hands steadies, until the pain becomes direction. He looks to the horizon, where dawn will come, where the light will break, where the chains will fall. But the fear, it still lingers. Fear is loyal, it never leaves easy. It crawls up the spine, whispers in the ear, you can't do this. You'll die if you try. He closes his eyes. The words of fear press against his mind like hands. But Samuel, he has begun to learn silence, stillness. He sits so still that even the crickets hush, even the night holds its breath. In that silence, he finds clarity. And clarity is more dangerous than rage, because rage burns quick. But clarity endures. He watches the moon trace a path across the water. Silver lines ripple through the black. A map, a sign the river is calling him. And he knows someday soon he'll answer. Behind him a cry rings out, a whip cracks. A man screams, then nothing, the silence after pain. The silence that changes men. Samuel clenches his fists. The rope around his wrists digs deep into his skin, but he doesn't flinch. Pain has become an old friend. And this time he doesn't fight it. He listens to it. Each throb of pain says, remember, endure, wait. The night drips slow, like molasses through broken glass. But Samuel doesn't move. He is waiting for something that cannot be rushed. A turning, a moment, a breaking point. The river gurgles beside him, dark and endless. It smells of mud and salt and freedom. And as his reflection shivers on the surface, he sees two Samuels. The one who was chained, and the one who will rise. He speaks to the water softly. You hear me, river? You gonna take me home? The wind answers, rustling the reeds. A whisper, low and rhythmic, like a heartbeat in the grass. It sounds almost like yes. He closes his eyes again. He lets the sound of the water wrap around him, cool and deep, swallowing every thought, every wound, every chain. He isn't free yet, but something inside him is, something vital, something ancient. It moves in his chest, in the rhythm of his breath, in the trembling of his fingers against the dirt. It says, you are not done yet. Night is a teacher. It speaks in whispers only the broken learn to hear. Samuel lies awake, the quarters around him breathing in slow, uneven rhythm. Every sound has a meaning, the cough, the shuffle, the small sob muffled into cloth. But beneath it all, he listens for the deeper sound. The river's pulse, steady, unbending, alive. He imagines it moving through his body vein to vein, as if freedom were water, and he a vessel too long sealed. The thought frightens him. It also steadies him. He has lived years in silence. Silence kept him whole. Silence made him invisible. But silence is not peace. It is only breath held too long. He begins to test it. Small defiance in small spaces. A glance held too long. A word muttered under breath. A gesture not bowed low enough. He feels the danger in it, the thrill. Each act tiny yet real, like cracks forming in glass. The others notice. They do not speak of it, but their eyes follow him now. In their songs, his name begins to hum at the edges, folded between verses of sorrow. He pretends not to hear, but he does. It roots itself in him like a seed. Work fills his days, but his thoughts drift elsewhere. He begins to watch the overseer's hands when he unlocks the storage room, counting seconds, studying motion. He memorizes the curve of the key, the sound it makes before the click. He begins to time the tides, the hours when the current turns soft, when fog covers the docks. Knowledge becomes his rebellion. Every detail stored, each one another link in an invisible chain he means to forge for himself. When night falls, he sits by the doorframe, fingers tracing the scars on his wrists, each one a reminder of what obedience costs, each one also a promise. This is how much pain he can bear and still breathe. He wonders how much more he can bear and still remain silent. Sometimes he dreams. In the dream, he stands in the middle of the river. No chains, no voices, only water rising to his chest, cool and endless. In that silence, he feels something close to peace. Then he wakes to the rattle of chains and knows peace must be taken, not given. The overseer senses the change before anyone else. Predators always do. He studies Samuel too long, speaks his name like a threat. "Keep your head down, ferryman." Samuel nods. He keeps his head down, but inside, something has already lifted it. Days blur again. Fields sweat, the eternal sun. But within that monotony, a rhythm builds. He finds stillness in the waiting. Stillness sharp as glass. He no longer prays for freedom. He listens for it. And the river answers, always the same voice, always the same question. "Are you ready to move?" One night he whispers back. "Not yet, but soon." The words taste like iron, like promise, like the first breath before breaking. And in that whisper, something inside him shifts forever. The silence that once protected him now feels like a cage. He can feel it cracking, he lets it. Because in Charleston, under the endless hum of labor and loss, a man is learning how to turn stillness into a weapon. And soon, the river will teach him what to do with it. Night still clings to the plantation. Heavy, breathless, it refuses to leave, as if it knows what the coming dawn will bring. Samuel stands in the shadow of the quarters, body still, eyes wide open. The air is wet, thick with the scent of pine and sweat of old iron and damp wood. He can hear the soft breathing of the others inside, men and women lost in shallow sleep. Their dreams are not of peace, but of pause, small breaks between chains and commands. He watches them for a moment longer. Then quietly he kneels, the ground is cool. He digs his fingers into it, deep enough that the earth pushes beneath his nails. He whispers something, not words, not language, something older than both, a rhythm, a sound that feels like hope. He presses that earth against his wrists, where the metal once bruised deep, leaving rings of silence in his flesh. The dirt sticks to his skin, dark against the scars, and for a moment, it feels like armor. The wind shifts. He looks toward the horizon. There is no light yet, only the faint suggestion of it. A gray whisper beyond the trees. But the world is stirring, the dogs, the crows, the quiet rustle of leaves. And beneath it all, the river breathes. He can hear it even from here, slow, endless, ancient. The same river that carried bodies, secrets, prayers. The same river that now calls his name. Samuel, it seems to whisper. Not from one place, but from everywhere at once. He moves toward the shed at the edge of the field. Every step is careful, deliberate. The dirt crunches soft beneath his bare feet, and his breath moves with the rhythm of the night insects. He has walked this ground his whole life, but tonight, it feels different. It feels like goodbye. Inside the shed, he finds what he left behind days ago, a rusted nail, a bit of broken chain, a strip of cloth torn from the overseer's coat. Useless things, maybe, but not to him. He lays them in the dirt and studies them like tools of ritual. The nail sharp, red, old. It will break what the chain once held. The strip of cloth, white once, now brown with sweat, it will bind what must stay hidden. And the piece of chain, he doesn't look at it with hatred anymore. He looks at it like an old teacher. It taught him what weight feels like, what silence means, what it costs to be alive and unfree. He holds it tight until his palm bleeds. The blood darkens the metal. He sets it down gently like a farewell. Outside, the wind grows still again. The air thickens, charged, almost waiting, the kind of silence that comes before thunder. He lifts his face, feels the moisture gather against his skin. Somewhere, the river stirs again, louder now. The sound of water moving against stone, steady, determined. He remembers what his mother once said. The river remembers. She told him that long before she was taken to the fields, when he was still small enough to believe in anything. The river remembers everything it touches, she'd whispered. It carries what we lose, names, faces, songs. Samuel whispers her name now. Not loud, just enough for the water to hear. Then he stands. He wraps the cloth around his wrists to hide the scars. He ties it slow, steady, deliberate. Every knot a prayer, every twist a promise. He breathes deep and looks to the east. The darkness there is breaking, thin lines of blue and pale gold slicing through the horizon. Dawn is coming, the hour when the world shifts from silence to sound. He picks up the nail, presses it against the shackle still hanging loose at his ankle. The metal resists at first, groans in protest like something alive. But Samuel does not stop. He works slow, rhythmic. Each strike of nail against rusted lock sounds like heartbeat. Each breath, a drum beat in the dark. When the final piece gives, it does so quietly, a small, dull click. But that sound fills the world. He lifts the broken chain in his hand. For a long moment he says nothing. Then, softly, almost like a confession, he says, "You had your time." He leaves it in the dirt. The final tether between the man he was and the one he must become. The sky shifts again. Light bleeds into color, pale gold turning to fire. The world looks painted. And Samuel stands inside that glow like a figure carved from earth and dawnlight. His breath is steady, his eyes clear. He is not running anymore. He is rising. He takes one last look at the quarters, the cabins, the fields, the fences. He memorizes them not as prison but as proof. Proof that he existed here. Proof that he endured. Proof that he will leave and the world will remember. He moves toward the tree line. The shadows swallow him and the forest opens with the sound of awakening things. Leaves brushing against his skin, roots beneath his feet like veins of the earth. The air grows cooler, sharper. The smell of river mist thickens and he feels the first touch of water's breath. He pauses only once, to kneel by a fallen oak, its roots torn and gnarled. He touches its bark, whispering a single word, witness. Then he rises again. The trees part just enough for him to see it. The river, wide and endless, its surface trembling in the newborn light. The water glows gold. Alive. Holy. He steps closer. The ground turns soft beneath him, mud swallowing the prints of his feet. He feels the pull, the quiet invitation. The river doesn't rage. It waits. The sun crests. Chains broken, wounds hidden, heart awake. Samuel stands on the edge between two worlds. Behind him, everything that tried to break him. Before him, everything waiting to make him whole. He looks down once more, in the reflection. He doesn't see chains. He doesn't see chain. He sees wings, and as the wind rises from the east, he closes his eyes. Not to hide. To listen to the river, to the dawn, to the memory that breathes his name. The dawn is no longer gentle. It crawls across the swamp, dragging mist like torn cloth. The air hums, thick, alive. Every insect's cry trembling with warning. Samuel walks barefoot through the reeds, soaked, shivering, but unbroken. His breath steams in the early light, a ghost refusing to fade. The chains are gone, yet their phantom weight still clings to his skin. Invisible, but remembered. Each wrist burns with a ring of blood and freedom. He moves with the silence of someone who has learned to hide in plain sight. Every sound, the crack of a twig, the ripple of water, speaks to him now. He has become what the masters never understood. A man shaped by silence, not submission. The swamp breathes around him. Frogs croak. Water drips from cypress roots. The earth itself feels alive, damp, pulsing, listening. Damp, pulsing, listening. It shelters him. It hides him. It accepts him. He finds an old stump hollowed by lightning. Inside, a rusted hatchet, a fisherman's forgotten tool, swallowed by mud and years. He lifts it. The handle splits beneath his grip. Half rotten, half strong, perfect. He cleans it in the river, watches the rust bleed away in ribbons of brown and red. It gleams, dull but deadly. In the reflection on the metal, he sees his face. Gaunt, sharp, alive. Eyes that once looked down now burn upward. He studies the man he has become. There is no slave here, only hunger, only reckoning. He waits through the morning, listening, thinking. Freedom is not enough. Not yet. Every crack of the whip still echoes in his skull. Every scream from the quarters still hums beneath his ribs. He can't walk away from it. He won't. He remembers faces. Dinah, who sang through pain. Isaac, who never woke from his last beating. Little Ruth, sold like a trinket to a man who smiled when she cried. Their ghosts gather now, quiet but near. The wind shifts when they come. The air grows heavy. He kneels, presses his hand to the mud. "I won't leave you behind," he whispers, and the swamp answers with silence. A holy kind of stillness. By noon he reaches the tree line overlooking the plantation road. Through the branches he sees the world he fled. Wide, bright, cruel. The mansion gleams white in the sun, its columns tall as arrogance. Men move below, the overseer shouting orders, dogs pacing the yard, women sweeping steps they'll never climb. Smoke curls from the kitchen house, dinner for men who never sweat, never bleed. Samuel watches them the way the hunted watch the hunter. No rage, just knowing. He studies their patterns. The guards' lazy rounds, the dogs' feeding time, the overseer's drink breaks. He knows every rhythm of their cruelty because he's lived it. And now he bends that rhythm toward revenge. Night comes slow. The air thickens again, heavy with rain and heat. Samuel stays hidden beneath a collapsed wagon, sharpening the hatchet on stone. Each scrape of metal sings. Each spark drifts upward, faint and dangerous. He thinks of the overseer, Harlan, a man who smiled as he burned scars into backs, who called it discipline, who called it mercy. Samuel remembers the night Harlan dragged his brother by the hair through the dirt. Remembers the laugh that followed the lash, the way he said, "You'll never break me," Samuel whispers now into the dark. "Then I'll unmake you." The wind rises, a low growl through the trees. The swamp smells of smoke again, faint but real, maybe from torches back at the quarters, maybe from memory itself. He grips the hatchet tighter. The handle fits his palm like a pulse. Hours pass, the rain begins again, soft at first, then relentless. He moves through it, quiet, barefoot. Every drop hides his steps. Every shadow covers his shape. He passes through the field where he once worked. The ground is soft, soaked in years of sweat and tears. He stops by the whipping post. The wood stands crooked, splintered. He touches it. The surface is slick. He doesn't know if it's rain or old blood. Maybe both. He lays his hand there a moment longer, then steps away, no more. The quarters are dark, but not silent. He hears whispers. Those who still remain, they know something is changing. They don't ask how. They just feel it in the air, that something once broken has begun to heal through fire. Samuel does not wake them, not yet. Not until the deed is done. He moves to the main road, crouches low. Torches flicker near the stables. Horses stir, dogs growl restless. The overseer's house sits on the edge of the field, a smaller copy of the master's. Built from the same cruelty, painted with the same arrogance. He waits until the moon breaks through the clouds, a pale eye watching him. Then he moves, step by step, through mud, through shadow, through memory. He reaches the stable. Inside, a lantern swings. The air reeks of hay and sweat. He sets the hatchet down, begins gathering what he needs: rope, pitch, a broken lantern, a few nails, everything ordinary, everything deadly in the right hands. He works slow, deliberate, his fingers steady, his breath even. This is not rage anymore. This is purpose. Outside, thunder rolls again, long, low, endless. The sky feels heavy, waiting. So does Samuel. He sits near the stable door, sharpening the blade one final time. His reflection flashes with each stroke. A ghost forged into a weapon. He hums the old river song his mother once sang. Soft, mournful, defiant. The sound echoes off the wood. It sounds almost like prayer or prophecy. When he stands, the blade glints. The rain falls harder. The dogs bark once more. And somewhere far off, the mansion's clock tolls midnight. The moment arrives, the time between freedom and revenge collapses into one breath. He exhales. He moves. The swamp is silent. Only the pulse of the river breathes beside him. Samuel's chest rises and falls in the dark, his body slick with water and ash. Behind him, the horizon begins to bleed red. Not from dawn this time, but from fire. He looks back. Charleston sleeps under smoke. The overseer's quarters, the same place where his chains once clattered, now burns like a pyre. The flames twist and hiss, swallowing every lash of cruelty that once echoed through its walls. Wood cracks, horses scream. The wind carries the smell of burning oil, leather, and sin. Samuel does not smile. His face is stone. Because this fire isn't joy, it's judgment. The kind that speaks in silence and light. He remembers the first time he saw that building. When he was 14, he remembers the lash, the rope, the voice that told him he was property. Now that voice is screaming. Now that voice is turning to smoke. He doesn't watch long. He turns away. He's not here for the pleasure of watching men burn. He's here to erase the sound of chains once and for all. He moves through the marsh, quiet as a shadow. In his hand, the broken chain now sharpened at one end. It glints like a blade, like a memory refusing to die. Every step sinks into the mud, slow, deliberate, sacred. He reaches the bridge, the one that leads back toward the fields, the one that carries wagons full of cotton and tears. He douses it in the oil he carried in a cracked bottle, the same oil used to light the overseer's torches at night. He tosses a spark. Flames crawl like serpents along the wood, feeding, devouring. A symbol, one bridge burns so no one else must cross it in chains. Behind him the fire spreads. Hungry, righteous, he keeps walking. In the distance a gunshot cracks. Another. The hounds have found the scent. They are coming, but so is the river. He quickens his pace. Through reeds, through mist. The moonlight slices through the fog like a silver knife. Every sound around him sharpens. The crunch of his steps, the hiss of insects, the whisper of the current. Then, movement, a voice, a figure rising from the dark. The overseer himself, half-burned, blood-soaked yet alive. He's crawling through the mud, clutching a pistol, eyes red with hatred. Samuel, he rasps, teeth bared. You think you can burn me out of God's world? Samuel stops. His shadow looms tall in the fire's glow. He doesn't answer. He doesn't need to. The silence is louder than any word. The overseer lifts the pistol. A click, a trap. But the hammer falls empty. No powder left. The man gasps, helpless. Samuel steps closer. The chain glints again. He kneels, not to beg, but to look the man in the eyes. You taught me to kneel, Samuel says, voice low, rhythmic like a prayer. Now I teach you what it means to bow. The chain flashes. A single strike, swift, final, unhesitating. Then silence again. The overseer falls into the mud, swallowed by the earth he once owned. The fire reflects in the river beside them, shimmering gold and crimson. The sound of the burning fields becomes a hymn. Samuel stands over the body, breathing deep. Not rage, not fear, just release. He drops the chain beside the corpse, the same iron that once held him. It lands with a heavy thud, a full stop in history's sentence. He steps into the river. The cold water bites at his skin, washing away the ash, the sweat, the blood. The flame's reflection dances over him, half man, half spirit. Each step takes him deeper. Each ripple erases a scar. Behind him, the plantation collapses into itself. The barns, the bridge, the house, all swallowed by the fire he left behind. But ahead, the river stretches wide and endless. He breathes once more. The wind carries the faintest trace of laughter. Not cruel, not broken, just alive. And he walks until the sound of the fire fades, until the only sound left is water. The rain does not stop. It comes down in sheets, drumming the roof like fists of judgment. Every drop a countdown, every thunderclap a signal. Samuel moves through it like a shadow carved from breath. Bare feet whisper against mud. The world smells of iron and wet wood. Lightning flashes. The sky tears open. And for one blinding second, the plantation looks almost holy in its ruin. Smoke from the chimneys twists with rain. Chains glisten like veins in the earth. And there, in the heart of it all, Samuel stands, soaked, trembling, and alive. He kneels by the gate, the nail clutched between his fingers. It trembles, slick with rain, rust flaking like old blood. He fits it into the lock, twists. It doesn't move. He presses harder, jaw clenched, muscles tight. The nail bends just slightly, and then, click, the shackle gives. The gate whispers open. He stops breathing. For the first time in his life, the world before him belongs to him alone. Not in promise, not in prayer, but in touch, real, raw. He feels something break inside, but it's not fear. It's the thin wall between man and myth snapping clean. He no longer thinks of escape as running. He thinks of it as rising. Behind him, the quarters stir. A cough, a murmured name, a chain sliding across wood, but no alarm. Not yet. Samuel slips past the gate. The mud sucks at his feet like hands unwilling to let him go. He moves faster. Past the cane fields, where the stalks hiss like serpents in the wind. Past the oak trees, heavy with moss that drips like old sorrow. His breath comes hard. His body burns, but he does not stop. Lightning forks again. White fire across the heavens, and in that flash, he sees it. The river. Dark, dark, wide, endless, alive. Every story he's ever heard about men who tried and failed comes rushing back. The ones who drowned, the ones who were caught, the ones who begged for the lash instead of the water. He feels their ghosts in the storm. They whisper, "Run," he answers. No, he doesn't run now. He walks, slow, deliberate. Each step a drum beat, each heartbeat a declaration. Chains still hang from his wrists, heavy, dragging through the mud, but their sound no longer binds him. Now they march beside him. An army of one. The overseer's dogs bark in the distance. Their howls split the night. Torches flare near the main house. Shouts follow. They've noticed. The storm hides him, but not for long. He doesn't turn back. He can't. The river pulls him forward like fate. It's no longer just water. It's the pulse of everything he's ever lost. It calls his name in a voice made of thunder and grief. Samuel. He steps into it. The cold slaps his skin, bites deep into the bone. The chains sink. He gasps. The current drags him, fierce, merciless. He fights, not against it, but through it. The rain blinds him, but he keeps his eyes open. Every stroke is a memory. His mother's song, his brother's scream, the overseer's laughter. He pushes harder. The chains pull, the water roars. And somewhere inside that chaos, something changes. He stops thinking of drowning. He starts thinking of becoming. The river isn't killing him. The river isn't killing him. It's remaking him, stripping away every lie ever told to him about who he was. The current tears at the metal, grinding it against rock. Sparks flash beneath the surface. And then, with a sound like the sky breaking, one shackle snaps free. He surfaces, gasping, roaring. The rain hits his face. Storer. He throws the broken chain behind him. For the first time, his arm moves clean. Free. He laughs, low, cracked, disbelieving. The sound vanishes into the storm, but it is real. It is his. He swims harder, each motion rough, desperate, holy. The second chain cuts against stone. Stone tears the skin at his wrist. He doesn't care. He pulls again and again, until it too gives way. The river takes it, carries it down into the dark. Now he is weightless. Now he is water. The torches behind him blur and fade. The dogs bark from far away. The shouts drown under thunder. He is beyond them now. Every heartbeat feels like a drum echoing through centuries, from those still chained to those yet unborn. Each one whispers his name, Samuel, 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 Samuel. When he reaches the far bank, dawn is just beginning to bleed through the clouds. The rain slows, the river sighs. The world holds its breath. He crawls onto the mud, coughing, trembling, half dead, half divine. He turns and looks back across the water. Smoke rises from the plantation. Torches move like fireflies in panic. He whispers to them, though they cannot hear, "You will never own me again." The sky cracks one last time, pale light spilling across the river's skin. He stands bare, bloodied, free. The river behind him murmurs his new name, the one he earned in the storm, man. And with that, Samuel disappears into the mist, a shadow reborn in dawn's first breath. Charleston breathes smoke and salt. The air is thick, heavy, like the breath of something ancient that refuses to die. The docks groan. Ships rot in the harbor, carrying sugar, cotton, and whispers of men who never saw land again. Above it all, the mansion stands high. He wakes to the sound of iron being dragged over earth, a ritual more consistent than prayer. The sound doesn't startle him anymore. It's become a kind of mourning hymn. He rises from the floor of the slave quarters, his body marked by splinters, his back a map of raised scars. Each scar has a date. Each mark remembers a word that should never have been spoken. He doesn't count them anymore. He only counts heartbeats. And between those heartbeats, silence. The quarters smell of earth and rot. The ceiling hangs low, patched with wood and desperation. Men cough softly in the corners. Women hum low songs, half lullabies, half warnings. Children sleep beside buckets of cold ash, their faces shadowed by dreams too old for their years. Outside, the air hums with the rhythm of labor. Axes striking wood, water slapping against barrels. The overseer's whistle, thin, sharp, slicing through the dawn. Samuel steps outside. His bare feet meet the dirt, cool and damp. The sky is the color of copper now, bruised and reluctant. Smoke from the sugar mill coils upward, staining the horizon in shades of grief. He walks toward the ferry dock. His place, his cage, his stage. He was chosen for the river because he was strong and quiet. Quiet men make good tools. The master liked to say that. He said Samuel rode like a shadow, moved like one too, invisible when it pleased him. Each morning, Samuel ferries cargo and men across the narrow stretch of water, from plantation to port, from port to pane. His hands move through the oars without thought. Push, pull, push, pull. The rhythm has replaced his heartbeat. The water smells of salt, blood, and something old. The ghosts of the enslaved who drowned trying to do what Samuel only dreams of. He can almost hear them when the wind shifts. Voices beneath the current, whispering in the rhythm of the tide. They tell him to wait, to listen, to watch. So he does. So he does. He watches the master's children play by the shore, their laughter ringing like broken glass. He watches the overseer's boots leave patterns in the sand, marking the world like ownership. He watches the water, always the water. It glitters like a living thing, mocking him, inviting him, reminding him. Freedom moves like that, beautiful, cruel, just out of reach. When the sun climbs high, sweat becomes a second skin. The air thickens with the scent of molasses and labor. Men move like shadows bent under heat. The whip cracks, sharp, casual, intimate. Every sound echoes too long, every silence is louder. At midday, Samuel eats from a tin plate, bread hard as bark, water warm as spit. He chews slowly, eyes never leaving the river. It's the only thing that moves freely here, the overseer notices. Still staring at that river boy. The voice drips like oil. Samuel lowers his gaze. Yes, sir. The overseer grins. All teeth, no warmth. Then maybe it'll drown you someday, he laughs. The sound is cruel, but not untrue. Samuel nods, says nothing. Silence is safer than truth. He finishes eating and returns to the dock. The sun begins to fall. The shadows stretch long and the air cools just enough to breathe. He dips his hand into the water. It's cold, alive. It licks the wounds on his wrist. He imagines it washing him clean, if only for a heartbeat. Night creeps in. The plantation exhales. Somewhere a whip curls around a scream. Somewhere else a song rises in defiance, low, steady, eternal. Samuel listens. He hears the rhythm of the night, the slow hum of survival, and beneath it the soft pull of the tide. The river speaks again. It doesn't promise freedom. It only offers a choice. By the time the moon rises over Charleston, Samuel knows its language by heart. It's the sound of motion. The sound of leaving, the sound of something breaking inside him, quietly, completely. Tomorrow will come, and with it, the same chains, the same sun, the same river. But tonight he lets the thought live, small and trembling in his chest, that maybe one dawn soon the river won't just whisper his name, it will carry it.